You said it during the soundbite. He looks great. But he looks young and he looks fresh and he looks happy to be there. And that was what he said in the rest of that soundbite. But see, let's start with this contract extension. Is it a big deal that he doesn't have a new contract at this point? I
think in the world of sports, when you talk about one of the greatest players that's ever played the game and him not having a contract, I think it's a conversation. But as far as it being a big point, I don't think it's a big issue because I don't think it's a big issue with New England. Tom's not a guy that's consumed by money. Now, he makes a hell of a lot of money on and off the field, and his wife makes a hell of a lot of money, and God bless them for that. But Tom has made it a priority that he was going to allow New England for the last 7 years-ish to have the flexibility in the salary cap where he was going to be one of the best quarterbacks, but he wasn't going to be one of the highest paid. And that's one of the reasons why they've been able to be in 3 Super Bowls in a row at this point in his career. Now, how they've spent that money, sometimes Tom wanted his friends. Going back to Wes Welker, he wanted money. Tom wasn't making a great deal of money as far as the top quarterbacks. They didn't sign him. Randy Moss wanted money. They didn't sign him. Now, last year, they gave him an incentive clause and Gronk one to entice them to be able to come back, and it worked because they end up winning the Super Bowl. But I'm not concerned because I don't believe New England's concerned. And when you trade Jimmy Garoppolo, which they did 2 seasons ago, ultimately you are going to have a quarterback issue. And then not only Jimmy Garoppolo, but Jacoby Brissett. They traded him to Indianapolis. Now, you're talking about ultimately, I think in the next 3 years, because I think Jacoby's going to be a starter in the NFL. So they traded away 2 starters who were the potential replacement for Tom Brady. So they said they're not worrying about it because Brian Hoyer is not the future of the New England Patriots. Now, if Brady was to get hurt, what would they do? The season would be over with. They would be stuck with Brian Hoyer. They can't run this offense with him. You can't throw the ball. And right now, they are not a throwing team. They are a dominant running team. If you look at from week number 17 last year, what they did in the playoffs, how they won their 6th Super Bowl, it's running. And that's what they're going to do, offensive line. They're going to play to their secondary, play to their defense. They believe their defense will be a top 5 defense. So Tom Brady, being the highest paid or one of the highest paid right now, is not a concern to New England. Now, I wouldn't be surprised before the season if Tom Brady signed a 1-year extension. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all because to me that seems like Kraft and Belichick, the way they would like to continue doing business with Tom Brady. And just another side note, if you look at all the seasoned quarterbacks we have in this league, and you go to Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Drew Brees, out of all those players, only Ben Roethlisberger is not in the last year of his contract.
Correct.
So our oldest players, if you look around the league, Phillip Rivers, he did an interview 2 days ago and said, I'm not worried about it. It's the last year. When you get to this stage, it is really year to year. Drew Brees, in last year's contract in New Orleans, he's getting the same type of questions. But you get to this stage, it's year to year in the NFL. Now,
and you know that the Chargers expect Phillip Rivers to be there after this year, but he doesn't have a contract after this year. The Saints would certainly welcome Drew Brees back after this year. I think it's more on the board that Drew, especially if they win a Super Bowl, would potentially retire. And
they have the best backup because they got Teddy Bridgewater.
Right, who, by the way, also is not under contract after this year. The Saints got no quarterbacks under contract after this year. Eli's in a bit of a different spot because we don't know if this will end up being the last year of his deal. Ben forced the issue. Ben wanted a contract extension, and I think if Brady forced the issue, he would get one. This is only not an issue because Brady is not making it an issue. This is only not an issue because Brady is doing one of the things that is first paragraph of the all-time greatest resume, which is always putting the team first, even if it's even just the slightest bit to his detriment. How long does Brady want to play till, Jenna?
45.
Till he's 45. That means this year and 3 more. You know what Tom Brady would love to have? A 3-year contract extension. To have it on paper and locked in that if I want to be the New England Patriots quarterback until my age 45 season, I'm under contract. But he's not going to remove some of their ability to maybe, which I think they could do, go out and trade for Trent Williams, for example, in the next week and a half. They're not going to, and he's not going to make it a distraction or an issue, even though he has every right to. Tom Brady should never be in his walk year of his contract. He shouldn't have to answer those questions, but he doesn't need the money, to Chris's point. He has the built-in security of, man, Belichick maybe was planning on replacing me a few years back, but guess what? Belichick does have one boss, and that one boss, Mr. Kraft, is not in the business of replacing me. So I do find it interesting. But as long as Brady is laughing about it and joking about it, even if there was a little subtle, why don't you guys ask Mr. Kraft about it? I think he would prefer to have one. He's not going to allow it derail their attempt to repeat a Super Bowl champion.
This has the feel, at least from the Patriots' perspective, that they're all in on what they have right now. They're just going to keep rolling this back. They're going to put Tom Brady back out there and maybe a piecemeal a little bit of the rest of the roster and see how far this group can take them. They're not thinking about their future. Getting Josh Rosen or something was not an option for them. They're going in with Brian Hoyer. You said they got rid of Brissett. They got rid of Garoppolo. They're just going to keep putting Brady out there because until he proves them otherwise, they're going to see how far they can take this.
Typically, New England doesn't take a lot of risk. But in Tom Brady and dealing with him, they're taking a lot of risk. And I believe they're going to go year to year. And if Tom Brady slips, I believe that if he wants to retire, or Belichick wants to have another option, because I believe that Belichick really holds all the strings. I think that what they're trying to do, too, is continue to send the message to the team. Tom Brady is playing for his job. Everyone on this roster is playing for their job. It's the corporate thing. Do your job. Tom Brady should be concerned about playing football this season, not concerned about long-term. And I believe New England, they might do something before the season starts to alleviate that. But from a corporate message standpoint, it's easy to get the message point when Tom Brady is the ultimate. He's the best player we've ever seen play, the GOAT, and he's compromising every single year.
And the one other element is when you think about the backup quarterback for Tom Brady, Brady, along with that class of 04, has had unprecedented health throughout their careers.
Yeah.
Brady had the one season where he got Bernard Pollard blew up his knee. Other than that, he plays all 16 except the year he was suspended. Eli never gets hurt. Phillip Rivers tore his ACL in a playoff game and didn't miss a game the following year. Drew Brees had the injury in San Diego before he went to New Orleans. He's been available. Big Ben gets dinged a little bit, but he's durable. So they have been unbelievable as far as the backup quarterback for these older quarterbacks has never had to be pressed into service for any real amount of time.